agents all throughout the United States having the best success with ZBuyer? Like, tell us about that. Jordan, welcome to the show, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
I heard there's a snowstorm where you're at.
To say the least, a little bit of an understatement.
I love that there's this snowstorm going on. By the way, probably a few people are listening in from as well. And you have a fireplace playing in the background, which I love.
Well, see, if we lose power and, I've got, portable, little space heaters on a generator keeping me warm. I figured the fireplace would be, a good false sense of comfort.
Well, that false scent can be a placebo and it can kind of make you feel warm. I'm getting warm just looking at it.
glad I can share some of it with you.
All right. And for those of you who don't know Jordan, he works with ZBuyer, and we wanted to talk about ZBuyer and the leads that it gives us, specifically today about HousingNow, because these are buyer leads, but they're better quality, right? They're deeper. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Jordan, can you tell us where the idea came from, if you know, and how they function in comparison to what we've seen in the past?
Definitely. So previously we used Facebook. That's where we were generating our buyer leads. And we had some pretty, in-depth tactics. And after years of doing it, we had really mastered the craft of Facebook buyer leads. But as I'm sure everyone knows, a Facebook buyer lead at the end of the day, no matter what you call it, it's still a Facebook buyer lead. We capture people very early on in the process. And it just wasn't the, quality necessarily that we were looking for. We were constantly, just reevaluating what can we do? What can we do better? How can we capture people closer to the actual buying process? And the idea came up with, well, let's create a sister company. If we can't rely on someone else to do it and be a partner in this, let's start doing it another way. So HousingNow. And thank you for pulling it up. I'm working off the iPad today, so this will be a help. This is what we've came up with. It's a nationwide IDX publisher where we're able to drive traffic through all of our lead generation channels, push people here and capture their information. So instead of finding someone like we did in the past who was, maybe scrolling through Facebook and catching, their eye with an ad about, good deals on properties or purchasing homes in their area, now we're going to capture them once they're to the point that they're looking at homes. They're ready to view properties. They're ready to speak to the agent about specific homes.
Doesn't this remind you of Ghostbusters?
It does. It does.
Jake, this is the Ghostbusters house, bro. Anyway, I love this one, dude. And I have a question, Jordan. Do you guys get the data from ListHub, or where does the data come from for the listings?
Yeah, ListHub. You were spot on with that.
Perfect. And so that means you cover the whole nation then?
Just about. There's a few pocket areas where we don't, but we're working towards that and doing what we can to get full coverage.
I'm going to test out. So tell me how this works. I'm somebody who's coming in and taking a look at, let's see, edit my search. Let's go. Oh, I put it all together. That's why. And let's say I'm looking in Thousand Oaks. I really like this home. And how is my data then captured and then sent to the real estate agent?
Most definitely. So once this loads up for you and you look at the listing, as the home shopper, you're going to come in here. You're going to be able to see the full property description. You're going to look through the photos and say, Tristan, you like this property and you're interested in it. You want to ask a question, or if you want to speak to a realtor, over on the right-hand side there, you're going to fill out your name, your phone number, your email address, and then you've got a text box. So we're going to preload that with just something saying that you're interested in this property, but you can go in there and type any additional comments or feedback that you want. At that point, as soon as you fill this out, we're going to send this to our real estate agents that are in this county. And then you're going to get all the information from that lead form as well as the listing URL. So you can go click on the exact property they were looking at.
Nice, man. Nice. And I found Barry. So
Hey,
Jake,
I can't turn my camera on. It says
Jake, can you
Tristan.
make him co-host? I can't. You're
Just made
the there you go.
Tristan's a jerk and he won't turn it on.
I'm a double jerk. What's up, dude?
Oh, just hanging out, man, hanging out. I honestly was just listening to the overview, and it's really interesting how it seems like they're really trying to be in touch with the consumer's needs of looking at a house.
Yeah, I really like that a lot because it changes it a little bit. Because you and I both know when people go to Facebook, you don't inherently go to Facebook to search for property. Kind of catches you off guard, right? So that's where they're top of funnel. But if you're coming in here, that changes the game. Like I would come here to look at property specifically.
Definitely. And there's a few ways we're getting traffic here, Tristan. This is still a fairly new site. It's been in development for over 2 years at this point. But as far as this actually being, a live site in production and pushing traffic to there, it's still fairly new. So as we're building up an audience and as we're accumulating repeat users, we're going to be doing a couple things like social media. So we're going to be driving people here through social media, as well as online searches. People online looking for properties, they're going to see ads and different marketing about HousingNow and coming to our site to fill out information about properties. Some of them are going to be coming to the site and filling out lead forms to talk to a realtor about homes in their area. So there's many different ways that we're utilizing it, but it's a totally different direction than what we were taking with our buyer marketing and trying to capture people that are closer to the actual buying process.
Can you tell us where you guys are getting the leads from? Like where on, is it just going on social? Are you doing pay-per-click? Are you going on different sites? What does this look like?
So that's a good question. There's a combination of so many different things. As we're still, testing what's going to be the absolute best resource. Social media, though, is going to be the biggest one at this point. And then some online, Google PPC style marketing to drive people to the site. And then we're seeing every day as we're doing this, we're accumulating a higher and higher amount of repeat users, people that are coming back to the site, consistently coming back to HousingNow, continue searching.
All right. And if somebody's already part of ZBuyer, can they get an extra discount off of these specific leads, or are they included in there?
So if anyone coming from the LCA webinar, of course, we have the 10% discount for that. Reach out to your customer service rep and let them know. Anyone that was a ZBuyer member and was previously taking on the Facebook buyer leads has been transitioned into this. Now, if say you are a member and you've just used sellers in the past, but you wanted to add this on, you certainly can do that and take advantage of that 10% discount.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. Now I have a question for Barry in regards to when the leads come through, because when the lead comes through, I know both Barry and I use Follow Up Boss. And as the lead comes through, Barry, what type of engagement are you looking to create with that lead? Because they're different than just a Facebook lead or a past client or even a Zillow lead.
Well, yeah, I mean, they picked out a house. So, what you're able to do is you're able to just have more of a transactional type conversation. So when I say transactional, I mean same way you go to a restaurant, you ask the waiter for a cup of water, they don't bring you a lemonade, they bring you what you asked for. And so in this case, like the analogy is very similar. They asked for a house. They said, hey, I like this house and I want to see it. And so now, this is the type of conversation I think most agents are craving to have is, oh, you like that house. Okay. What did you like about it? When do you want to see it? That's kind of like the mecca of opportunity because I don't have to be consultative in nature.
Perfect.
So,
all right. That makes a lot of sense. So Jordan, what have you seen in regards to agents all throughout the United States having the best success with ZBuyer? Like tell us about that.
Yeah. So are we talking buyer leads specifically here, Tristan?
Yeah, I think specifically buyer leads with this product because it's a newer product and I want to know how people are using it right now.
So the biggest thing we're hearing and the best success we're seeing is just a direct approach. I got some information from you. It looks like you were online looking at some properties. I've got one here. And like Barry said, diving in a little bit, figuring out what about that property, what about that area. We see different stuff online all the time. We have people, working with our customer service reps that are sending out these, 300 character, initial text messages, just, giant messages, giant first introductions. And frankly, it doesn't work. Be direct, be vague. Barry's system, we've heard some similar things as far as how he worked our seller leads. Just, I got some information that came across my desk. What can I help you with? Let them tell you the story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think sometimes we start with what we call rapport building. By the way, I tried to get my 4-month-old to stop crying, and she won't listen to me. So you're going to hear that in the background. Freaking kids, you know what I'm saying, right, Tristan?
I'm hearing I'm translating. ZBuyer is awesome.
Is that what? Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Trinity. Appreciate it. All right. So, I think sometimes we try to make fake friends. Like, we get this lead and suddenly we want to talk about where they grew up and where they go grocery shopping, what their favorite color is. And like, everybody knows you really don't care what your favorite color is. And everybody knows if you weren't trying to sell something, you wouldn't be smiling and talking to them. Like, I think I said this in the last webinar. I don't have time for my real friends. My real friends call and it takes me a few days to get back to them. The last thing I want to do is be fake friends with a salesperson for 20 minutes. So like, I think what we need to do is we need to like recognize that this is someone that wants a house. What's cool about this though, is you can just like get to it, talk to them about the house, and where you live is an intensely personal subject. And so there's going to be so many authentic moments where you can talk about real life and what interests you, but it's not like, if I'm getting this new lead and Tristan's like, "Hi, Tristan, my name's Barry from Better Homes and Gardens. So, how are you today?" No, that I don't care what your life is. Like, it's not that I'm trying to be mean, but like, that's not the purpose of the call. You didn't come on my website to find out if we could be best friends or not. You wanted to find out about a house. And so let's talk about the house. And then you say, "Oh yeah, I really like that one. It has a big backyard." And then I get to say, "Tristan, I like big backyards too, man. Why do you like big backyards?" And so now I am being authentic. I'm connecting, in an authentic way, and I'm building rapport, but it's actually connecting me to the person. And I'm going to tell you guys, authenticity is what sells in our culture, not being phony. And so these leads that Jordan is sharing with us, when they come in, yes, get right to it. And then as soon as they eke out a little bit of who they are, what their story is, that's the moment that you get to latch on to them and really start to connect and relate to them in a personal way. That's what gets you clients. Instead of trying to just come up with something. So,
well, part of that is also what happens next, because if you're not able to get a hold of them quickly, like, well, what does that look like long term, right? And either Barry or Jordan, what have you guys seen works in regards to the automation or the nurturing done through AI, tech, or with an actual person? I'll go to Jordan first. Jordan, what have you noticed works in our world?
So a super simple one that we've seen and heard some good success about is a follow-up text message with the URL for that specific listing. So if they filled out a lead form for a specific property, sending it back to them and trying to say, "Hey, I wanted to chat with you about this home again." Leave the listing there. So if they forgot what home they filled out a lead form on, they can click on it. They can see it again. "What about this home caught your eye? I want to connect with you before it's gone." Simple, reminding them what they filled out the lead form, letting them go look at the property that caught their attention enough to stop and say, "Hey, let me put my information in here. I want to know more." Because the site like this, there's no carrot dangled in front of them of, fill this out and you'll get this. They're filling it out because they want to talk about it. So remind them, why did they want to talk about this home?
Yeah, and I would add, that's a great point, Jordan. And I would also add, so this is someone that picked out a house, gave you their information. Let's assume it's correct information. Now you've called them and they're not responsive. Something's not right. And what I mean by that is, when you think about every time I've like, let me just think about an example where I opened the door to talk to sales. Okay, I was looking for a new Tahoe, and there was a moment where I was like, do I want to click this button right now? Like, is this really what I want the next 2 days to look like in my life? You know?
Yeah.
And then I did it, and then I almost instantly regretted it because my phone blew up. And I think sometimes that happens. We request for something, and then we decide not to. And so for me, if the initial get right to it messaging doesn't work, I got to think, okay, this person might be kind of regretting asking a salesperson to contact them. Join the club, right? I mean, I don't like talking to salespeople either. And so what I do then is I try to shift, and I say, I try to add value. So what I don't do is I don't put the burden of the next steps on the consumer. And the way that we do this, and we don't realize it, is I hope everybody's had coffee before I started talking about this, because this is kind of deep. Tristan, you sure you're ready for this?
I'm ready, buddy. I'm ready. And I pre-ordered your book. So there you go.
Oh, love it. All right. So make sure you send me your Venmo so I can pay you for that. All right. But seriously, add value. I don't burden the consumer with what the next steps are. So I don't think there's anything wrong. And I think it's a really good thing to send a link to the property and say, do you have any questions, like Jordan said? But I think there's a point where we keep asking, do you have any questions, or how can I help you? And I think we have to understand there's a point where I'm now taking the inquiry and I'm burdening the consumer back with that inquiry. And I'm basically saying to them, hi, yes, my name's Barry. I'd like you to tell me how to do my job today. That's basically what we're doing.
That's true. That's very true.
Thank you. I don't often get a from Tristan. So like, I actually am going to file this away. Like, I feel really important right now.
Core memory.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we have to do is we have to think for them. And if you think about every shopping experience or restaurant you've ever transacted business with, if you're honest with yourself, the businesses that thought for you in a meaningful and respectful way are always the most pleasurable. So like I remember the last time I actually went to Best Buy to buy a TV. This isn't the current TV I have, as a TV before this one. Mm-hmm. And I remember I just found the dorkiest kid, and he just was so stoked to talk to him about all the features. And I just kind of sat at his feet, like I just let him go.
Yes.
And when I don't travel often, but when I do, I try to make the most of it. So I ask people around, what's the best restaurant? I sit down, I ask the server, what's the most popular dish? Like what do people love? And unless it's really weird, I get it, because I get to enjoy that experience and the value that they bring as the consumer. What we're doing as agents is we are effectively doing the exact opposite. Do you have any questions? How can I help you? When do you want to see it? Like, I'm asking them to tell me what to do, instead of really just layering on that concierge experience. Hey, I know you're looking in 123 Smith Street. I think there's a few others in the area you're looking. Did you want me to text or email it to you?
You know what? I think this is where my friend out here in LA, Beverly Hills. So he did so amazing with open houses because he treated it the same way. He sat at the open houses. He waited for people to come through multi-million-dollar homes, right? And while the people were coming by, he wouldn't be just like, hey, here's the kitchen, here's the living room, check this out, right? It's more like, oh, you like this feature? Interesting. I have this other one that's not on the market yet, or I have this other one down the street. Did you see that one? And he'd know everything about the area along with what's available and what's coming, that he would be able to close on other homes, not just that one. And I think that's what we're missing.
And I would do the opposite at open houses. I would sit and just eat the cheese tray and get a stomachache because I would only have like 2 minutes or less to be amazing, interesting, engaging. And nobody taught me how to add value. So I just gave up. I was like, I just don't care anymore. And if I would have known what I know now, I would do exactly what the story you're sharing is, because that's actually valuable. And it's the same thing with Jordan, the product you guys are discussing. The consumer went to a website that's real estate specific, went around and looked at different properties, looked at photos, made a decision that this is, out of everything I've just seen, this is the one for me. And now I have the opportunity to be a part of the journey. So we gotta, if you want to be successful with these leads, you got to stop being a waiter or a waitress. Nothing wrong with that career, but that's not why you're getting 3% of the commission. You're getting 3% of the commission to be a counselor, to be a guide, and to give direction. And that's what these people crave. If you can learn how to do this, what I'm sharing with you guys, you will always have an abundance of opportunity laying in front of you, because nobody else is having this type of conversation with a consumer.
Well, the approach is completely different too. I'm not looking to close you as soon as I get you. I'm looking to help you and create a relationship.
Right.
Right. Now, all of a sudden, I don't see every single lead as, oh, online leads suck, instead of here's an opportunity to build something long-term. Right.
Exactly. And
big difference.
So it is. It's a huge difference. And, I really like to help people. I love to teach. I love to help. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. And so I happened upon this strategy because I'd be talking to a prospect, and this is back in 2013. So this was a Zillow lead, which I would, that's a property specific lead. And Jordan, what you're sharing is a property specific lead. And so I see a lot of parallels there. And, I remember the person would say something that just didn't make sense, or was just really a really bad plan, or based in fear. And I would just tell them, like, I think that's a horrible idea. Do you want, you can hang up on me now if you want, but would you like me to tell you why I think it's a horrible idea? And now they're sitting at my feet, and now I'm teaching them. Yes. And that's why my conversion was so high with online leads, because I actually cared enough to have that difficult conversation with them.
Dude, I think that people are so used to hearing the same thing over and it's like, Barry, it's like when we go to for sale by owners, it's the same pitch, right? It's like, well, when are you ready to hire the right agent to sell your home? I'm like, that's garbage. It's the same thing over and over. It's like, did you guys, I kept on hearing at the beginning when I started, did you guys all attend like the same school for this? It's like, when I kept on hearing that over, I was like, I think it's time to change my dialogue. Right. It's the same thing with online leads, though. We hear the exact same thing. And I think this is why, yeah, we can have an introductory dialogue that we go to, but after that, we've just got to shut up and listen and then be really authentic. That I think is the key right there. Right.
And you can automate this. So Jordan, for the users that are wondering, like, okay, I buy these leads, now what? This whole topic, and one of the reasons why I think you wanted, and probably are regretting, I be on this webinar with you. I'm just kidding. But one of the reasons why you want to be on is because, I try really hard to automate, and I am obsessed with this type of automation. I think a lot of people are kind of shotgunning their automation. Like, I know if I send the same lame message to 100 people, 2 people will respond to my lame message. Instead of saying, all right, I've got 100 people in this scenario, what's the most valuable thing I could say to them at this moment? And watch, you'll probably get like 25%, 30% response rates. I use call action a lot, and consistently, this is a big thing with Jesse, with, what does he call it? Authentic automation. And, I consistently get about 1/3 of my leads from ZBuyer and other sources, Wilopo, you name it, responding, because it's authentic, it's in touch. So yeah, I think that's really the name of the game.
So what you're telling me is just the lame generic messages that, I get probably 10, 15 of a day, because I thought it would be a good idea of making myself a test lead, testing and, seeing what kind of responses I get. You're telling me those don't work?
No, they don't, man. They don't. And if we're honest, they don't work on us either. Like, the messaging that we're sending to others doesn't work on us with other businesses either.
No.
I remember I was shopping for a couch, and we went to 3 furniture places in a row. It was miserable. And each time the salespeople would come up and like follow you around, and like, it just felt like a fly. And I'm just like, go away. The 3rd furniture store, though, I remember the guy had like the specials in a magazine. Mm-hmm. And I walk in, he hands me the specials, and he says, what has you in a furniture store on a beautiful Saturday? And first of all, right, that's an incredibly good starter of a question, because now he's not But the others were like, what do you want? What are you here for? How can I help you? Putting the burden on me. He changed the question. And then he asked, he said, when I answered the question, which is, we're looking for yada, yada, he says, oh, that's over on that side. I'll tell you what, why don't you go over there, sit on it, check it out. I'll check on you in maybe 5 to 10 minutes, see if you have questions. Is that fair? We bought a couch that day, right? Like, because he gave me the space that I needed, and he added value by telling me where to go in the store. He framed next steps. And then he created the sizzle at the end by providing some, unique selling propositions. And honestly, guys, that's, if you want to sell real estate online leads, that's the same type of scenario you have to do. You have to have a different conversation. You have to add value. You have to, if your conversations are ending with something lame, like, can I email you? Stop. That is not that. Zillow can email people. Like, that is not valuable.
Well, Barry, also, I think we also have to listen to the cues where people sometimes want to meet up way sooner than you think. And I'll give you an example. The last two that I've talked to, because I transferred them over and they just fell in my lap. One of them was visiting Malibu, was eating lunch at Malibu Seafood, and literally called up on land. I picked up the phone, talked to him for 10 minutes, texted him with my agent and said, and then he says, can you meet us for lunch? We're at Malibu Seafood. And I'm like, I'm doing a webinar. So Jacob can do it, not you, Jake, on the back end, the other Jacob, right? That's one. And then the other one that we wanted to meet up the next day. He's an attorney for gamers. And now he's in escrow under contract for like multi-millions, but he wanted to meet in person. Some people, you just have to listen to the cues, but first you have to lead with value. They have to know that they want to connect with you. It's like, oh, this, like Barry said, he's like, I just want to be left alone until I realize that I don't, because you're giving me a lot of value. And now I want to buy.
Right. I mean, but Tristan, so first of all, that was amazing. Really good analogy. But like, let's be honest, you probably start with like, do you know who I am?
I did. I led with that. And then I said, and Barry has a new book coming out. And they said, oh, Barry, I know Barry. That's how I locked him in.
Oh, so good. So good. Jordan, I have some questions about the product. I don't know. I don't want to like hijack.
No.
Tristan,
One thing, though, before we go, so me sitting back, listening to what you're saying, to me, what you described and how you approach these, you don't come across like a real estate agent. You come across like a real estate guide. You're there to educate. You're there to help them make the decision. You're not there to sell them. That's not your first intention. And right. It's a shock to buyers, and I feel like they got this lead form expecting, the slicked back velvet suit salesman to show up and, what can I wine and dine somebody into? But that's not. You break the pattern, you break the cycle, and it catches their attention.
It does. And I think that as an industry, let's go big. I think that we all hear agents say things like, oh, I'm going to buy these leads, and the leads aren't good. And then they complain, and then people ask, well, what do you mean the leads aren't good? And everybody pretty much says the same thing. Either the leads don't answer, bad number, or people, they call them looky-loos, which I don't know where that came from, but I've heard that before as well. And so what I think we just need to reframe is how many of the people that I called had a real estate need, whether it's a year from now or whatever. Just how many people did I have the right information and had a real estate need? And I have personally been shocked of the people that have told me XYZ lead source is bad. Like, let's just, keep it generic. Oh, this lead source not any good. And then I ask them, out of 100, how many of them did you talk to that wanted to buy or sell a home one day? And they'll say something crazy high, like 20. So I'm like, wait, let me make sure I understand. 20% of the people you talk to from this lead source are wanting to buy or sell a home one day, and you said the lead source isn't good? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And so, Jordan, I think what you're providing is a lead that is a specific type of conversation. You've made it easy because I get to talk about a house. I don't know if it could get any easier, really. I mean, what do you think, Tristan?
Dude, I think it's a common misconception that online leads suck. And what you and I have found, because we've been working on them for such a long time, is that it's just a lack of approach, right? Because the thing that we've noticed over the years is that the approach actually changes as well. And what worked 2-3 years ago isn't working anymore. And we're still working in the same way we were 2 to 3 years ago. That's the problem too.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
one thing that'll never go away is building relationships. And if we approach it that way, at least with that mindset, I think we can have success in a lot of what we do. And that includes online leads. Right.
Absolutely.
So Jordan, if I sign up for this ZBuyer product, what should I expect to happen?
So if you say go through the link that you've been dropping, that LCA link, once you go fill out your information, you're going to get into our actual pricing section. So you can go look at your county, you can look at your area, you can see sellers, which we've talked about sellers many a times. You can also see our buyers in there. You'll go ahead and create your account, pick however many leads you want, set it up. Once you activate it, at that point, you're going to get reached out to by one of our customer service reps. So one person will be dedicated to your account. And then from there, we're going to work on the fun stuff, like setting up where do the leads need to go? What CRM are you working with? We're going to get all of these pieces in place. So then we can take, some of the wizardry magic we've heard from Barry about automations and letting your systems help you do the work for you. At that point, that's where that comes in. From there, these are real-time leads. So we're going to be generating them over the next 30 days. That's you're an active subscriber with us. And we're going to send them to you the moment we get them. We don't want to send you the old leads. We don't want to send it to you 10 minutes after we got it, an hour after we got it, a day. These are real-time, so we're going to get it to you right away. But then you also get our bonus, which is the prospecting list. So that's going to be different for every county, but that's a backlog of buyer and seller leads. So that's, a totally different topic than this, but that's kind of the quick rundown on what you can expect.
Dude, I need to get I'm looking at it right now. I need to jump onto HousingNow leads.
Yep.
And Jordan, look, I'm gonna hit you up so we can make that happen. I'm actually reaching out to Sandra as we talk.
Okay.
And I'm signing up.
Okay.
There we go. That way I can compare notes with Barry, and we can talk about all that good stuff. All right, Jordan, anything that we missed that you wanted to talk about when it comes to the HousingNow leads?
No, I think that really covered the gist of it. We talked about what they are, the mindset, working them. The biggest thing that I want to say here is it's a totally different lead than what we were producing before. So it does require a different mindset for anyone that's a current ZBuyer subscriber, and was purchasing buyer leads. The scripts you had in place, automations that you were using before, not going to fit this. So, adjustment, understanding.
Was that mainly because the ZBuyer leads come in and they were looking for some type of an offer, like a cash offer or an offer in that sense?
So that was for our seller leads, but even our previous buyer leads, Facebook leads, I feel like this is a totally different ballgame. This is a totally different timeline for the buyer. They're going to have different expectations of what they're looking for. And, our agents should have a different expectation of, where the buyer is and what their mind frame is going to be.
I love that, man. All right. And then we put up the link there. Jake, thank you so much. And this is recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel. Barry, I put up your link. I already had Dennis Hearing sign up for pre-order. I think you're at like 100,000 pre-orders now. So that's really good. That should make you like an instant bestseller.
I hope so. I did want to say one thing though, for people that maybe are concerned that, there's not enough houses on the market. So do I want to buy buyer leads? I feel very strongly that sellers don't want to talk about selling. It's not exciting. Like you think about the term retail therapy. We call it that because there are dopamine hits associated with shopping. When I'm very grateful that I get those now from Amazon versus going to the mall, because it's way easier just to scroll through. But like, shopping is a pleasurable experience.
It is.
Selling your house is literally the antithesis of pleasurable. You have to keep your house clean all the time. You have to worry about paying all this money. You've got to negotiate. It's not a pleasurable experience. And so what I want to say to you guys is that buying a buyer lead does not mean that you're stuck with just helping people find a home. This is someone considering buying a home. And, you know, we can't forget that I know for me, about 25% of our buyer leads are seller leads for us. Like, that's just been the general metric. And I know that's a market thing. Like, some markets are different than others, but you just got to look at this, like, even because I think you said, Jordan, that you guys are selling seller leads, but also buyer leads. And, you know, just remember that the buyer leads, just because they say they're a buyer lead doesn't mean they're not looking to sell as well.
That's true. And I think most leads that are coming through that have a home to sell are actual buyers just looking. Like, I went through this process, and I needed to make sure, Jordan, that I could buy where I wanted to buy first, and then decide, well, does that make sense? And then if it does, then I guess I'll sell, right? That's the process that we go through. So Mark has a question, and Dennis too. Maybe Dennis is a comment. Mark says, if we're presently buying 50 buyers from the Facebook ads, and now that will convert to this new platform? ?
That is correct, Mark. And I noticed your comment, and I'm going to have customer service reach out to you just so they can update you on that, and let you know about that transition and when you'll see that take effect with your leads. And then Dennis, it looks like, had a question here. I'm a mortgage broker, worked with ZBuyer leads before with limited success. Will this system be better for me than prior? Of course, I'm going to be biased here with what I. Tristan, you guys have both used our leads. Tristan, you've used us from years and years ago.
Yeah.
One of you want to give a little feedback here?
I'll answer that, Dennis. I think Dennis and I know each other. Dennis, I think it comes down to a deeper answer, and I want to know if you've got your automation in place. Do you have everything set up so the systems are in place? And how is your approach when it comes to the dialogue, right? That I don't know. And if you say, hey, I'm working on it, it's getting better, that's the response I want, because I'm still getting better. And then I'd say, give it a shot, because what we found is every lead source out there that we've tested out works. Just the difference is, how good is our system to then expose which one works better, right? And then how good is our approach to see which one works better? And Barry, what's your response, buddy?
You know, for like 2 years, first of all, Tristan, that was a really good point. And I think you can't look at this in a vacuum. Like, is this lead source good or bad? There's a lot of factors. And so that was a really good point. And, you know, for 2 years, every Friday morning, I went and grabbed like a bunch of really old leads, put them in a dialer, and I called them. Our team meeting every Friday was me calling leads on speakerphone to prove a point.
Ooh.
Because every Friday morning I set at least one listing and one buyer appointment. Because I believe, I sincerely believe what I'm about to say, that if I'm talking to another person that is looking to buy or sell a home in the foreseeable future, they will benefit from my being involved. That I know things that they don't, and they need me and they don't realize it. And so because I firmly believe that, bringing that belief into that conversation, when I would get them on the phone, I'm not thinking overcome objections. I'm not thinking, you know, what's the right script for this scenario. I'm thinking this person needs me and they don't realize it. And so I end up becoming a quote closer because I'm passionate about what I believe. And so for you guys, I think this is less about, will this for work versus that. I think it's really what Tristan said. And then when the person gets on the phone, it's what you make of the opportunities. The reason why I called the leads every morning on speakerphone was because my agents were like, hey, these leads aren't good. And I decided to show them that they are. And instead of, and I think there was a little bit of,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what I did on that? Because I had the same challenge in the past. And what I started doing is I separated my team, and all the newer team members that were coming in, I'd say, okay, you guys are working the leads. Let me show you how to do it without them being swayed as to whether online leads worked or not. And so then this online lead team was working the leads, like these 1 year in, 2 year in agents are closing multi-million-dollar deals. And then the other side of my team's like, what? I'm like, well, you guys said the online leads suck, so I gave it to the new ones, right? And now everybody's like lining up, right? Because they see that it works. But
So,
it's in the approach.
Yeah, you got to do that.
In the approach, and then one thing we hear so much, and to be frank, this is something we see with our own sales team, for ZBuyer, for our company, but being able to drop preconceived notions, not anticipating the no, not anticipating the, we're not looking, we're not interested right now, putting that aside and going into it with a fresh mindset, because online lead generation, calling these leads, it is work. There is amount of rejection and amount of no's, and just an inevitable factor that comes with that. Once you let that accumulate and you take that into every call with you, like you're saying, you get that idea of this doesn't work. Why am I going to call these leads? I'm tired of wasting my time. But your new team came in without those preconceived notions, wasn't influenced to it any sort of way, and then they made it work.
I don't know about you, Barry. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you're calling the leads and you engage with somebody and you get an objection, doesn't that make you feel like, ooh, this is good? Like the next, if I can convert this, I actually get like goosebumps when I'm calling. It's crazy. And I love calling like another word.
Yeah, I love the challenge.
Objections. Like, don't you like, oh shit, they have an objection. I love this.
Well, because you're a problem solver. I know that from dealing with you personally. I actually don't see you as someone that's trying to trick or force anybody to do anything ever. And I've seen you behind the scenes when it wasn't a good day and you didn't act that way. And so I think we need to interpret for those listening, what you're not saying is, oh, they have an objection, let me trick them. I really think that you see it as a challenge and you love a good challenge, and so do I. But you're not saying, what kind of trick that can I use to get them in there? And I like to think that I'm similar in that I feel that my job is to help them get out of they're in their own way. They think that they're a year away because this is a big process and they're confused. And I'm here to simplify and make it easy. And you can't bring those presuppositions into the conversation. It's like when I first got on this webinar, like my first thought was Jordan's hair's on fire. This is going to be a horrible webinar, right? And it wasn't. It worked out. It was like this was a great webinar. We went deep. And if I would have brought my presupposition that hair on fire equates to a bad webinar, I would have missed out on a killer webinar. And in the same way, for those of you that can't see, he's got a fireplace behind him, and it just makes it look like his hair's on fire. But so you can't do that. You gotta, and I've had to do the same thing. I've had to divide and conquer. And I love when my top agents are like, how come they're selling so much? They see that. So yeah, I think you guys are onto something, Jordan. I really do. I think it's a really cool product, man.
Shoot. I need it.
We'll get that up. I'll talk to Eva, Tristan. You too, Barry. Don't worry.
Let's
Eva
go.
doesn't
Let's
return my
go.
calls.
Dude,
Eva
Jordan,
doesn't
I'll
return
give
my
you an
calls.
example here. One of our lead sources comes through. I send it over after I engage with them, 8:30 p.m. at night, send it to one of my new agents. My new agent doesn't wait, calls them, texts them. They pick up. They're like, who's this? They start talking. 1 week later, we're under contract for $7.5 million, right?
Wow.
And we're putting up their home on the market tomorrow for $3.8 million. And they have to sell a home across the United States where we're going to have to refer it out. that all happened from one online lead where, because I'm paying attention, we send it
Yep.
out, right? So there's opportunities everywhere. You just have to know how to work them. So thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. Barry, thanks as well for having, coming on here talking about this with us. I've got one final question for you, Tristan. I
Shoot.
see everything behind you. I've got my little buddy here hanging out with me. How do you like season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Hold on. Did you watch the episode last night?
I sure did.
Oh, wow. I mean, that was probably the best episode out of any Star Wars show I've ever seen in my entire life.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Last night's Boba Fett episode 6.
Right.
Insane.
And he was
I'll have to
only
check it out.
I can't ruin it for anybody.
Yeah.
Insane, bro. Jordan, that was an amazing episode.
It was. I'm gonna rewatch it tonight.
Me too. My jaw was dropped.
Uh-huh.
What was that?
I haven't even started season 3, so I'll have to check it out.
Oh, Barry.
I know. I will hand in my nerd card. There you go.
Nerd card taken.
Revoked.
This is so good. All right, guys. Everyone, sign
All
up
right,
for
thanks,
ZBuyer.
everybody.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Barry. Have an awesome
All
day.
right, thanks.